All right, guys. Welcome back to the Trading Triangle. Hope everybody's had a great week. It was definitely an interesting week. I know that much. Kay, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy Sunday to everybody.
Happy Sunday. Shaun, how about yourself?
Yeah, very good. Very excited to go to New York next week. So I'll be over the other side of the pond with you guys. So yeah, looking forward to that.
That's exciting. I
Looking
can't wait
forward
to have
to
you.
it.
So, yeah, I was hoping I could make it over to the East Coast and catch you. I'll have to do it next time, or I'm just gonna have to get over there. I mean, I love going to UK, so we have to make a trip out. Kay, you're gonna have to go with me if I figure that out.
Count me in. I love going to London.
Awesome, good
Good.
stuff. I haven't been in a few years, so I got to get back. Long overdue. Well, let's get into it, you guys. Before we do, of course, disclaimer up front, we're going to talk about a lot of charts, a lot of trading, stock market, great info, all the fun stuff we like to do every week. But we are not financial professionals. This is not trading advice or investment advice. This is all for educational and entertainment purposes only. We might hold some of the companies we're talking about. We might not, but we definitely like to talk about charts and get prepared for the trading week come ahead. I feel like as I'm talking, I lean forward, you guys. I don't know if that's a habit. I'm sorry.
Just getting excited. That's all it is.
That's it. Right?
Just want to get really into it.
Seat. It's the edge of my seat. Can't wait.
And by the way, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe.
That's right.
Make sure you subscribe. Yeah, we do this every Sunday.
Subscribe to the channel. Yep, we'll be back doing this on a weekly, and I think we're getting better at it. So you're getting more value every week and more charts. It's good stuff. So yeah, let's get into it. I know we've got a lot to talk about, a lot of earnings this week. First, looking at last week's numbers, got some green on the boards. Got some nice big green boxes here in our tech names. I do think that if we do get a push to the upside, I'm looking for tech to kind of lead the way. And I'm looking at semiconductors myself personally. What are you guys thinking about this last week and the performance?
Go for it, Shaun.
Yeah, so this week was a bit funny because it seemed a bit flat. I mean, you can see obviously lots of numbers here, kind of up. You can see AV go there for 8%, LRY is 12%. But generally, for me, I think the market was kind of flat. Am I right? I'm not too sure. I can't really remember. But yeah, it just seemed like a bit of a nothing week for me, to be honest. I know we had CPI and lots of reports, but again, the end result wasn't really either there or here. But
well, I was talking tech, and you focused on tech, and the Qs were basically flat. So yeah, what were you going to say, Kay?
Yeah, no, I think if you notice from last 2 weeks onwards, right, from the past 2 weeks, it was all red for the week. Then the previous week we had some green. Now it's a lot more green, and it's preparing for the earnings. So it's like a trend that you see across. Now, yeah, overall, the entire index might be flat, but then you had names like Amazon, Meta over 4% for the week. So if you did trading on those, that's a pretty decent gain you got from the start to the end of the week.
Ooh, choking on something over here. Anyways, yeah, maybe it's all the green in these boxes, but realizing that the Qs were basically flat this week. So let's take a look at that. We got fear and greed in the fear zone squarely, but let's run through the big ETFs that we like to track. So SPY was up 0.46. The Qs were, like I said, only up 0.16, so basically flat. But on the year, right, SPY is up almost 13%. The Qs are up over 37%. So this is a good year, which is really interesting because we've had these months that have been, pulled back and talking a lot about fear and extreme fear. And it's been a good year overall. Don't forget, markets are up. Now, the concerning parts are, so DIA, the diamonds, they were up 0.77, but on the year, only up 1.61. So room to catch up there. And IWM, I mentioned the small caps every week. You guys are probably sick of it by now. They're down 1.58 on the week and down 2.35% on the year. So you don't like to see small caps, but I did hear some interesting conversation. You don't like to see small caps lagging like that or even negative, but I did hear some interesting conversation that I thought made some sense, which tied to, maybe consumer strength is not going to be there, and with all the headwinds and pressures, but the B2B side might be just as strong as ever, right? And maybe not as strong as ever, maybe that's too much, but might be strong enough to continue to pump money into these SaaS companies and into the big tech names and all the B2B kind of stuff, which is a lot of the names that we talk about. So just something that I thought was an interesting conversation I heard throughout the week.
No,
And
that's
then
a
Bitcoin-
that's an interesting point you brought up. And you know what will be interesting to see is this earnings season is to watch the SaaS companies. Because in my personal opinion, if you think from a general enterprise, you are getting into the last quarter, which means that most companies who have the planning that they do for the next year's budget is probably coming to an end, and they are
Right.
going to allocate dollars to the different departments within the company for next year. So we could see when the SaaS companies that report earnings like Zooms of the world and other companies, Adobe's of the world, what is their future outlook for the next quarter? And I think that is going to give us a little bit more insights into how we should be trading SaaS companies.
I think it's going to be really interesting data points that we're going to get here. So yeah, Bitcoin. Want to mention that really quick. 27K, up 62% on the year. So continuing to do well, but not really doing much recently. But it did move up this morning. So interesting to watch. But yeah, this fear and greed index, Sean, what do you think about this? A month ago, we were neutral, right? Now we're in the fear. We were extreme fear just a week ago, but a year ago we were in the extreme fear territory, right? And so it doesn't seem to me, anyways, like it's totally out of this. Like we're saying, the performance this year has been good, so it doesn't seem like it's this crazy. We're in the extreme fear, everybody panic just yet. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think a lot of investors and traders are quite emotional, so it can tip that scale very, very fast in either direction. But also the kind of time of the year, so September, October generally is kind of a lower volume kind of time. Maybe not October; people are kind of coming in October. So I think it's kind of natural for it to drop, in my opinion, and obviously maybe we can kind of see a bit of acceleration coming into Q4. So yeah, I think this is emotional, and that's what basically this chart brings us.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. And Kate, what do you think about the put to call ratio? That 0.94, is that on SPY?
No, that's on the fear and greed index. So the fear and greed, so fear and greed index is actually built up of different indicators, and that gives you this number as an aggregate number of 29. So this put to call ratio is on the index, and that's how this number comes. So it actually has improved, and that's why you see the number from 25 to 29 in the fear to greed, because it was over 1%. Sorry, it was over 1.03 or 7, something like that last week. It's 0.94. So it seems bullish.
Yeah, it does. Yep. VIX kind of high. I mean, 1932, above the 50-day there, as you've got noted. So yeah, it's an interesting spot. But this is also, one thing I learned about the VIX is where it's elevated like this, the inclination might think, oh, well, we're going to have real volatility, which is a negative thing. But, VIX can compress from here. And if the VIX drops from 19 to back below 16, that generally is a good thing for markets overall, and you'll see some upside. Yeah. Not always, but, it's not necessarily bad that VIX is up here at 1932. We had kind of a flattish week, and small caps to get beat up. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to the earnings we got coming up. So that's a nice segue here. We've got semiconductors reporting quite a bit with ASML and Research, Taiwan Semi. So I've got a chart on NVIDIA. None of the guys, reporting this week, of course. Sean, we got Tesla this week. Good stuff.
Yep, Tesla, Netflix. Looking at those ones. American Express is one of those that I like to look at as well. Seeing if the kind of higher income group is still spending their money, which I'm sure they are. So we'll see a bit of data on that one. But that's the kind of what I'm looking at this week.
How about UK?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same names. And I would also say that at the regional banks, I think watching them closely is important. Not that we're going to take any actions, but I think there are a lot of regional banks reporting earnings. And that will kind of also set the tone.
I really think that's a strong point. Last week we got JP Morgan and Wells Fargo and Citi, all whatever. Like, I mean, that's important, right? And those stocks are all up. But I noted the PNC Bank, and I was talking about this on Spaces last week. PNC Bank did poorly, and they had some concern about consumers, and that's regional banking in the United States, right? So I think that speaks more to the small business side of things and consumers, and it's a consumer economy, right? So yeah, I agree 100%. Watching regionals. Also noted the airlines, right? So I think it was Delta that reported last week,
Yes.
and it did not go well, right? And so let's see what United does. It's crazy because I go to airport. I've been traveling more. Everybody I know seems to be traveling more. Sean, you're going to be traveling, right? And the airplanes are all packed. So I don't know if it's the higher energy costs or if they're just not back to where they need to be levels wise.
See, energy definitely has to play a role in that, right? Because
Has to.
it has to be. So even if your demand comes up, if your cost keeps going up, then it's not gonna, change anything for you.
Yeah, those costs going up is going to eat into the bottom line. I mean, it's pretty much simple math there, right? And yeah, I think airlines could be an interesting play to the downside, honestly. So we'll see where that goes. I'm not not big on trading earnings, but post the event, definitely we'll look at how the chart's set up. Speaking of charts, let's get into it. There we go, the fun part. So do subscribe to the channel and smash the like button down below if you enjoy what we're bringing forward, and appreciate your support every week. And looking at SPY to get started like we always do. Got a nice trend line that's formed, and it goes back a ways, right? It goes back to last year, and it got a nice bounce recently. Now we're curled over to close out last week. These are the daily candles for SPY, by the way. And it's not great to be below the 50-day and rejecting effectively at the 50-day. So I would like to see better action than that. That being said, and there's one other note is the volume shelf there that we rejected at. That being said, I'm like surprisingly optimistic, and I think that I need to be a little bit cautious here because the chart. You guys tell me differently, but the chart doesn't really give me tons of reason for optimism, and yet here I am thinking like we're in a good spot to potentially lift off. So help calibrate me here, Sean. What am I not seeing, or am I right?
Two things. The first thing is a bit more of a kind of logical thing. So we've got earnings coming up, and obviously if they start coming in well, that'll obviously push up SPY, especially if like Apple does well, of course, and all the big names. And the second thing is if you look throughout the chart, this chart kind of likes the 20 moving average, which is the yellow line. And yes, we made a nice move through it, coming back down to kind of use it as a support. If you look kind of back basically through the whole chart, it has bounced in a positive way quite a lot off of the 20 moving average. So I'd be looking basically for an immediate bounce, either tomorrow or if a flat day or Tuesday at some point this week, of course, to move back up and hopefully get a little bit of volume, bit of excitement back into the market, Q4, Santa rally, that kind of stuff. Maybe we can push through that 50 moving average. And then, yeah, I think we just kind of slowly grind into the end of the year. It's like in previous years, especially in 2020, of course, it just kind of kept grinding up very slowly. But that's how stocks work. Well, indices, of course. That's my view. Those two things: the 20 moving average and the earnings. Yeah.
So in my sense, right? I think earnings is definitely going to play a role but I also want to say this, right? If you look at the 437.33, seems like a very decent resistance level. Like 4, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 times the candle.
It has bounced there before, right?
Yeah. So
and now it's rejecting. Yeah.
So unless you have like Tesla, Nvidia, or any big tech, and I'm talking about big tech. This is in my personal opinion. I feel like only these big 8 names can actually push the stock, because which other industry currently can push the stock higher? I don't know.
I think semiconductors are interesting, but not by themselves. I agree,
Nvidia, Nvidia, not even AMD. Yeah, Nvidia, those big names.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there, and these earning impacts, big tech. I think Tesla could be the catalyst. Honestly,
exactly.
I mean, Tesla, huge name this week. It could go either direction, and it's part of the S&P now. So, yeah, the interesting earnings season coming up, and you gotta love it because it's going to bring a lot of opportunity, I think.
Exactly.
Now, go ahead.
No, just from an option standpoint, you are looking at next week, right? Which is what? 19th, right? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20th. So you're looking at a lot of hedging on the Friday at 2.07, which is nothing unusual. It's a pretty standard number that we get on S&P 500 SPY. So
Well, nothing crazy then jumping off the page, but still worth watching here. All right. Well, I was going to look at the cues here, okay, and I'm going to jump to that chart next. A little bit different. We got a range, and you know how we like our ranges.
Love the ranges.
I put in here Nate's buy zone. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I like this one. I like this one.
You like it? All right.
Yeah.
I thought you in particular, Kay, might like this chart just because of the range. We got a nice buy zone and some pretty obvious profit, targets, as I like to call them. It's not the widest range, but go from 350 to 367. A little bit of trading you can do in here. And yeah, looking for some buys at the bottom of this range. It would be nice to see it get above that mid-range point of 371, basically 372 for the Qs. But I like the RSI is above the midpoint there, and I think you can get in here buying at the bottom of this range near 353, 354, and right on up to 360, and then use a stop loss down at the 346.50 level, because at 346, if it breaks that, you're really going to be looking a lot lower for additional support. So yeah, I like kind of the sideways setup. And if you're looking to accumulate, they form the base before we take off or drop. So I like buying at the low end here and using that stop loss. What would you add here, Kay? Any interesting options information? And then I'd like to hear what Sean thinks about this chart too.
Yeah, so options income is pretty, nothing popping out. It's 1.72 for the week, which is ending on Friday. So pretty much all the earnings will be reported for by that time. And I think this is something very interesting that you did with the chart. And I think it's good for both traders and investors. So if anybody who's looking at the chart, you decided your buy zone, which means that you are driving your decision of buying the stock when the bar comes into the zone. You have a stop loss if you're trading. Now, if I'm investing in QQQ, I don't care. It's a buy and hold from a standpoint. But if you're trading, then you have a stop loss, and you have defined your profit target 1 and 2. I think this is how we should all look at how to trade, because sometimes what ends up happening is we get a little bit greedy if the stock is running up. But if you have those targets defined, you will take off profit, and nobody got poorer by taking profits off. So a little bit off the tangent, but yeah, I really like this chart, Nate.
Yeah, I mean it's a 4% move there from bottom to top of the chart, basically. Nothing huge, but tradable, especially with options. What do you think, Sean?
I think I'm looking at this for more of it's going to be quite a typical answer for me, but a breakout opportunity. Because if you drew a trend line from the top of the chart, basically where profit target 2 is, obviously on the candle, from there to where we are now, on Thursday's price action, that is a trend line. That's a pretty straight down trend line. There's 4 or 5 contact points there. So for me personally, obviously you've got a bit of a volume shelf where we are at the moment. So for me personally, if you can break out of that zone, so it's probably 371, as we mentioned obviously previously within this chat. If we can move up and break and maybe retest a level, 371, or maybe the trend line coming back down, or moving average or something like that, that would be my play. So 372, let's say, to 388, which is what I've written down now. So that's something I'm looking at for the QQQ. Now, obviously, if you're high risk and you want a bit more for your appetite, then you can trade, of course, SQQQ and TQQQ, which are the leverage versions of this. If you wanted to put a little bit less of your portfolio, but have it, it's almost like a bit more of a safety bet, I think. Because you can put way less of your portfolio on it and just kind of let it run, let it ride. But whereas with the big indices, obviously you get kind of less for your money, so you can you kind of tend to have a put 1 or 2% on rather than 0.5%. But yeah, that's my kind of 2 cents for that. I don't know if you have any input in terms of TQQQ or SQQQ, any of you?
I just like that you're using different instruments and you've got a good sound reasoning behind it, right? It's not so that you can leverage up, it's so that you can actually use a smaller amount of capital, and that's the right way to look at it.
No, I think that's the right way to put it. And also be very careful, because it's a leveraged ETF, so you don't hold, don't buy and hold forever. Like SQQQ and TQQ is like, you use it for a short duration of time, you get in, you get out. It's not for buy and hold. You should buy and hold QQQ.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a trading. Those are trading vehicles that Sean's talking about, which
exactly.
I like a lot.
No, I've seen actually some of my friends who actually invest incrementally in SQQ and TQQ, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. It's a leverage ETF. Why you want to? Because what ends up happening is that you end up going to the downside, and because it's leveraged 2 times, 3 times, 4 times leveraged, you see a much wider loss on those. So be very careful.
You also pay for fees overnight as well, don't you? For most
I think
brokers.
so, yeah.
So that will slowly eat away.
Yep.
So
These are all wise words, and so you got to pay attention to the vehicles you're using, and if you're using them correctly, and that's exactly what you're both highlighting. I think that's a good point to bring up. And I will say that I have fooled around and used a lot of these vehicles the wrong way in my early trading career, and it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long to learn. Like, oh, I shouldn't be holding this very long. This is a trading vehicle, not investing. So it's easier to learn by listening than by doing. Trust me on that one. All right, good stuff. We're gonna get into some charts here. I think anything else to add to the cues? Looks like a potential trade setup, though. Shaun, by the way, I wrote about this week's newsletter in Wolf Financial. Actually, I did a piece on breakout trading and talked a lot about this stuff. So if you get a chance to read it, definitely would like your feedback on that.
Well, yeah, I definitely will. I'm very into my breakouts at the moment. I've been doing a little bit of extra research, which it's always fun.
This is the time. But yeah, hand it over to you.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a high risk one. I've got 2 trade opportunities here, and this one's obviously Fisker, and they make electric cars in the US. And you can see what I really want to kind of point out here on this chart is that level of $7. So if you kind of focus your eyes on that for now, whoever's watching, that $7 mark is what I'm looking at. I tweeted it throughout the week, but you can see this is actually the weekly chart. So we're taking a bit of a step back. This has gone back to March. No, probably April, which is this trend line. But we can see the $7 level has been quite in contention for quite some time. It's been touched many, many times, big rejections off of it. So it's just kind of a strong support, strong resistance in inverted commas. But obviously, we're in a bit of a tricky trading period now, which we're kind of sandwiched between the 20 and the 50 moving average, which is why I'm not getting in now. I know we're at the trend line, but this is not the play for me. This is too high risk. Being sandwiched between 2 moving averages and just above a trend line. It looks good, but it's not the play for me. The play for me is 7 to 810, which you can see again. It's kind of the next resistance point. You could probably give or take maybe 790 to kind of 830. As you can see, I put an extra line above there. So kind of obviously play that to your risk levels, your risk appetite. Obviously, none of this is financial advice, just kind of how I perceive the chart, and obviously I want to kind of direct people kind of my view on things. I don't really know how to explain it, but I think you know what I mean. But yeah, I'd like to get your thoughts on this particular move. I think 7 to 810, essentially, in a nutshell.
That'd be a big move too, right? 7 to 810. What does that say?
Absolutely, yeah, I mean, it's
about 16%.
Yeah,
absolutely. And 7 looks like the level. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's obviously had a tough time getting above, but it's also, really strong support there for a minute. But yeah, it looks like if I'm with you, get above that 50-day or the 50 moving average there. It's the weekly, right? Get above that, and I feel really confident on getting in. Versus right now, it looks a little bit more precarious.
And it's not reporting earnings next week, right?
No, there'll be a few weeks away at least. So probably about a month, I reckon.
So here's a very interesting data point on options. So the open interest on call and put is about 10,000, 15,000 as of 10/13. Next week, which is 10/20, the call open interest is 93,000. Put open interest is 69,000. And if you go a 1 week out, it drops to 3,500 for call and 4,000 for put, and it stays the same way until you get into 11/17 when it's again 43 to 40. But I need to see why we have such a big open interest for next week. It's not quad witching, is it? Let me see.
No, there's no.
Right. So why is what is next week? It's going to be very interesting to see what's next week for.
Earnings is supposed to be around about the 1st of November, so it's not earnings.
It's not earnings. Yeah, this number is very it pops very obviously on that. It's like, why do you have like suddenly 93,000 open interest and what is going on? So something, definitely take a look at it if you want to trade. So keep that in mind on the option side.
That's a good data
FSR,
point.
huh?
Yeah.
FSR, yeah. One to watch.
Nice. All right. Should we keep it rolling, Sean?
Keep it rolling. Yes, please. So yeah, we have Robinhood, everyone's favorite investing app over in the US. Anyway, although it is apparently coming to the UK, so I'm looking forward to that at some point.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. It's been in the making for quite some time now, so I don't know when it will be, but yeah, we will see. Look forward to opening that. But yeah, this is the Hood daily chart, a bit different to the weekly chart we just saw. And I probably could have put the weekly actually, because you can kind of see the general pattern that I brought up here. And we're kind of an upwards channel. We're kind of approaching again that kind of bottom part of it. And this chart goes back to, I would say, July of 2022 on the far left side of the screen. So you can see it's been in this channel for quite some time, well over a year. And I like to think that with certain trends, certain channels, certain patterns, the longer they stay in them, the more solid they become. And I'd like to see your thoughts on that, both of you. But we're kind of coming towards the bottom of the channel. And obviously we do have earnings just around the corner on 7th of November. That's the big orange line. And basically my play would be here. I know I said something different with Visca, but the reason I say that is because of the strength and the length that this trend has been on. But obviously you do have to keep in mind the free moving averages are dangerously above and they're crossing negatively. So this would be a fairly short trade. So obviously for me personally, kind of entry point around about 9, and probably have a kind of stop loss shortly below that, maybe 860, something like that. That's kind of my thoughts on this chart. Trade opportunity for Robinhood. What are your guys' thoughts?
Okay, you first on this one.
Yeah. So on the option, the put to call ratio for next week is 0.23. And I see a similar trend as well from the open interest. We have 47,000 call open interest versus only 10,900 put open interest. And the following week it drops to 4,862. So I don't know what's going on this side, but the implied volatility is 49%. So if you are doing options trading, you will definitely be seeing a lot more premiums on these trades. Yeah, I mean 0.23, it's a very bullish, but again, it's a retail stock.
Exactly right. Yeah, true. Could that be because of this point, because of this technical point, or is that not what that's based on?
Sorry, what was the question?
Oh, sorry. So the high amount of calls, the bullishness within the options, would that be towards maybe this technical point, or is that not how that works?
No, it's just the number of people opening a call options versus put options. So the number of call options. So that's the ratio basically, put to call.
We got earnings not until November 7th.
Correct.
So a little bit of time there. I do know that, I've heard, positive things on Robinhood. Sorry, I'm stammering. With respect to their cash flow, and that they're positive cash flow, and that's created a lot of buzz. And then of course they've done the 24-hour trading. I don't know, how well that's being received or how well that's even going. But I thought the sell-off last week was interesting because it was right at the 20-day moving average, which, I would like to have seen it get above that. It seems to be respecting it to the downside. So, I want to see this 9. I'm right there with you, Sean. I want to see 9 hold. If it doesn't, after this long of a trend, it could see some pretty heavy selling and maybe get below 8, right? So
that's the other side of it, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's one of those where I think it's a real clean setup. It's like, don't get me wrong, these trend lines sometimes they break and recover, but if it breaks, it seems like it's an immediate cut, right? You don't want to risk getting knifed out of that in a big way. So that's my thoughts, anyways. I like that you got this clear, defined trend to the upside though, because I think Robinhood's doing good things, and I've never used it personally. I do think that it is smart to have a user interface that is, friendly and invites, new traders and new investors in, instead of making it kind of scary. But I'm old school, and I like kind of like the tons of data and the older school look to things. So I've never really used the app, but I hear they're doing good things.
It's pretty good. The app is very, very good. It's very intuitive.
Yeah, that's the word.
It makes it easy. So they gamified it, right? So there are pros and cons to it.
Sure.
If you are an investor and you have never invested in your life ever, it's not a trading platform. You shouldn't be trading from Robinhood. But if you're just investing, you're a dividend investor, you want to buy ETFs, you want, buy and hold, there's nothing wrong with Robinhood, honestly. Barring those controversies from GME and AMC, which is now 2 years old, Robinhood is pretty much recovered from that, but the stock price hasn't, unfortunately.
No, I think with the customer base, obviously, I think it may have increased slightly, and that's one of the things they're struggling with at the moment, in terms of fundamental basis. And obviously, Q2 was pretty good in terms of investing, in terms of stocks going up. So you might have seen a few more kind of customers coming in and doing it that way, and maybe we'll see that in the earnings report. But yeah, no, you were right, Nate. They are net profitable for last quarter, so that's a good sign for them going forward, at least.
Yeah, like to see it.
One point I want to make before we jump onto the next chart. So I just found out Fisker has a short interest of over 45%. So it's so one of the highest, it's in the top 10 highest shorted stocks currently in the market.
Wow. So potential short squeeze then, I guess. I probably should check that one out.
I just put big circles on it over here because that's super interesting.
I'm going to drop the link to the article in the chat.
Yeah, please do.
Thanks for that, Kay.
That's it.
All right.
I think that's it for my set.
You got two good ones this week, Sean. You always do, but these are really good. Love it.
No, if you are missing my Neo content, I've been missing it out the last few weeks on the Trading Triangle. And it's not on purpose. Honestly, it's just not much is really going on. But I do have thoughts over on my channel, my YouTube channel. I released a video yesterday all about Neo, 10 minutes longish. So if you are kind of craving for a bit of Neo content, then that's over there. And I've released a newsletter today on 3 more opportunities as well within the market. And that's on Amex, which obviously has earnings coming up on Friday, DraftKings and Palantir. So one of your favorites there, Nate. And obviously the retail favorite, Palantir, as well. So that's it for me, really, for this week. And I'll hand you over to the wonderful Nate.
Hey, thanks, Sean. And do make sure you not only subscribe to the Trading Triangle and smash the like button here, but check out Sean's channels and his newsletter in particular. Seeing it ramp up. Good stuff there. I saw the newsletter this morning. I didn't get a chance to read it yet, Sean. I opened it up and started getting into it. I didn't see DraftKings yet, so I would have saw that. I would have been talking about it already. Good stuff.
The best thing about it is it's really easy because I just put 3 stocks and 5 bullet points. So there you go.
That's my style.
Won't take you long.
That's perfect. That's how it should be. Straight to the point.
Yeah, for the weekends, I don't need a novel. I don't want to read a novel. So, looking at NVIDIA, the reason I mentioned earlier, we got a lot of, with earnings, we've got a lot of semiconductor names reporting. And the leader of the group, no surprise, is NVIDIA. And we've got a bit of a range that's formed. So looking to take advantage of that if we can, like always, trying to get in with good trades and take advantage of the charts. And it rejected here. Basically, you can call it 475, right, is kind of the top of the range. After the big run up, that's where it stopped and pulled back. We did get a push higher, got up to the 500, right, which is everybody's favorite number to cite when it comes to NVIDIA. And it rejected and it hasn't quite got back there yet. I've heard, you can look at this, and I'm sure any seasoned traders, and even less so, are seeing the classic head and shoulders formation potentially setting up here. I would say that one's one of those that is, it can work, but it also breaks down. It doesn't always work. So don't get ahead of yourself, right? Like, yes, this might venture its way back down a little bit here, but if it doesn't break the neckline at about 401, then there's not a huge trade setup in my mind. But that being said, on the flip side of that, we've got the 50-day moving average just below where NVIDIA closed on Friday. Where are we at? Right about 454, looks like. So 450 is where that 50-day moving average comes in. And if it can hold here and bounce higher, it's now holding the upper half, even if it gets down to the 20-day moving average a little bit lower. around 445 or so. That is still holding at the upper half of this channel it's been in. And I like to see stocks that have been, all the way up, all the way down in the channel, all of a sudden hold the upper half of it. That's when I start looking for a breakout trade. So, then I'd be looking for the breakout above 475 and trading accordingly. RSI is nice and positive. So I kind of like NVIDIA's setup. And if it's any indication for these other semiconductor names, it's worth watching the entire sector, I think, at this point. What do you think, Sean? You seem interested here.
Yeah, you've been hot on the semiconductors recently, haven't you? You've been talking about it week in, week out, and it's kind of almost due for a move just for you. But
I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. I'll be alongside you, don't worry. But yeah, I like the points that you've made here. Obviously, the first thing that I saw was a potential head and shoulders, of course. Anyone would see that. But yeah, I think what's important though, the last shoulder or the beginning of the shoulder, this part, is a higher low, higher high, sorry. So that's something a lower high.
Lower high,
yeah. Lower high coming in there. So that's quite bullish. Obviously, it's kind of bounced off that level nicely. And obviously the RSI has had time to relax really, really nicely as well. So yeah, I like the setup. I really do. I think 475 is kind of the level I'm looking at. But yeah, I'm still slightly apprehensive about the head and shoulders. Who wouldn't be? But we'll see.
Yeah, it rejected at 475, and you're calling out the higher low when we did get that last dip here, higher than the prior, right? It actually bounced higher than that 401 average. So we're getting those higher lows, I think is what you were saying. Yeah.
I tried to best I could.
I love it. And now we're above the 50-day moving average, which is what I'm really watching. That's an 18%. I noted that here, and I forgot to talk about it. 18% from the 401 to 475. That's quite a range to be trading.
Yeah. Honestly, when I look at your chart for NVIDIA, all I see is if it drops, I'm just going to keep adding to my long-term portfolio for NVIDIA. But I'm not going to add at 475. I want to add at 401.
401's a spot. Yep. Yeah. It's almost like the QQQ chart that I put up there. The buy range is at the bottom of this range here, somewhere between 400 and 420 probably.
Yeah, exactly. The lower you can get, better it is.
Yeah, 420 I think is a tough level. If it gets below that, I'll be watching 401 closely. But so semiconductors, I am, just like you said, Sean, I'm definitely paying close attention, and I want to see them lead the markets higher. So let's see if we get it. No head and shoulders. Okay. So energy transfer. The weird thing about this market is I am also bullish on energy. So and this is the thing. Energy, and if energy prices are rising, you usually don't see the stock market moving up in tandem, and tech names and whatnot moving up in tandem. That's just not usually how it goes. But here's my theory, you guys. Nothing has gone usually how it goes. Nothing, right? It's been 2-3 years now of just bizarre firsts and setting new precedents. And so why not have energy and big tech and semiconductors all make moves to the upside at the same time? If you look across the sector ETFs, you'll see that energy is above the 50-day moving average, SMH is above the 50-day, XLK is above the 50-day. Not much, nothing else is. Oh, and XLC. So XLK is the tech, and XLC is communications. Top two holdings are Meta and Google. So you're talking about all these big tech names, and then XLE, which is all the big energy names, ExxonMobil and whatnot. So that's where my head's at. And I'm just trusting the charts because that's what I do. And we've got a great setup with energy transfer. So the ticker ET. After I got through all of that rambling, we got a breakout. We got a retest here, which is, the setup we're always looking for. And now it's making the move higher. And I'd like to see it break through this 1385 level. I didn't get in on I did get in, excuse me. But I got a little early on the retest. So want to see it break through 1385 here. I like the trend line continues moves higher. And we got a little bit of a shakeout there, I noted. So I also like to see that on occasion just to shake out the weak hands. But what do you guys think about energy transfer? Kay, I know you're in the energy sector. You're paying attention to ExxonMobil and whatnot. Do you follow ET?
Yeah, so ET was on my watch list, definitely. I have two trades actually going on for energy. One is from you, SLB, that I'm currently in,
Nice.
and of course, ExxonMobil. The ET bump is very similar to SLB bump. SLB was down to, I think, $53, $54. And then we had this massive gap up after the war, which started last week. And in our last week, if you remember when we did the Sunday last week, we did mention as the war picks up, energy prices are going to go up, and you will see that energy stocks are going to go up. And that's exactly what happened with ExxonMobil. That's exactly what happened with SLB. Same thing happened here. And on the options, again, I don't know what's on 1020, and I need to do the research. Your open interest for 1013 on call side was 12,900. Do you know the next week open interest? It's 174,614 call options in the open interest for next week. It's
Wait.
like, yes, 174K call options.
From what was the week before? Where did that jump from?
12,900.
That's crazy.
Yes, to 174,000. Put options were 6,400 last week. It's 52,000 next week. So I need to find out. I was doing some quick research on what's going on 1020. I'm not able to figure it out, but something is off. Every single stock that we are looking or talking about, we see a dramatic increase in the open interest for 1020. So gotta find out what's up.
Yeah. Is there, what am I not thinking about? What are, maybe there's news events that are totally obvious and we're just not thinking about.
Most likely.
Yeah. I'll have to dig into that. So yeah, energy transfer and energy in particular, I kind of like the setup here. Sean, are you following energy names? In the traditional space and sense of it?
Not really. I follow XLE. No, so that is energy, isn't it?
Yeah,
XLE, yeah.
Yep.
I follow XLE. It's on my short list. I pop on there every now and then to see how it's doing, but not really individual names. I did have XOM for quite some time, looking at 109 level, and then obviously it ran away from me, and I was like, oh, brilliant. So I just kind of looked away from that one for a while. But yeah, generally not really for energy. It's really my play, to be honest with you. But yeah, I going back to this chart, I do like this 1385 level very much. So I'm looking for that kind of breakout. We obviously had a breakout of this stock recently, as you mentioned. So that's the level I'm looking at. But there's not too much else I can really add to this chart, unfortunately, Nate. So yeah, well covered, really well covered.
I'll take it. I'll take that as a win, and we'll keep it rolling. I did mention that I write for a Wolf Financial newsletter every Sunday. I'm also working on some interviews to add to the Wolf newsletter and lineup, so stay tuned for that. But I've got my own, newsletter on Substack, and that's under A Trader's Education. I post throughout the week, usually 4 to 5 different newsletter posts every week. And you can follow me on X at Trader Nate here as well. So appreciate everybody who's subscribed to the Trading Triangle. We're having a good time here every week, and I'm going to hand it over to Kay next. Awesome. Hey, you got Square to start, huh?
Yeah, thank you, Nate. Appreciate it. It was so a couple of different names since this is trading. Since we do trading, I thought it would be important to bring a couple of new tickers that we haven't talked about in a long time. Square is very interesting. The reason it's a setup is very interesting. We currently have the stock price down below 20, 50, and 200-day moving averages, which generally indicates that it has been oversold. Correction could be justified, could be unjustified, depends on how you see it. You can see the RSI, especially since the October 18th onwards, has been below 30, clearly in the oversold territory. Now, on the left-hand side, I also put a weekly a chart as well, a small snippet, and I drew the trend line, the wedge, and you can see that we are starting to form that range. It's lower highs, but that range, you can see that there is a resistance at around that level, that it's bouncing and coming back down, and then it's bouncing back from the lower level. And if you actually look, and if you want to trade Square, I generally do options trading, so I might not do a weekly, I might do bi-weekly or a monthly on this one, but this could be set up for a potential midterm trade that could give you, that could lead to an upside potential. And with Block reporting earnings, I'm not sure, maybe next week or the following week, but in the next 2-3 weeks, they will be reporting earnings.
I really like this. I think this is a nice swing setup for me personally. Sorry to jump in there, Nate. But
You're good.
so for example, if you entered now as an example, my stop loss would be kind of that $40 level, nice and tight. You can probably go a bit lower than that, of course, with swing trading. Probably go to 35. There was to be a bit of a shakeout. But it's to be honest, looks like we've kind of already had that shakeout on the weekly. I mean, I'm looking at the weekly chart on the left side. On the daily, it doesn't look so good, if I'm completely honest with you. But if you could set a little bit of a higher low on that daily, then that would be ideal. But yeah, I really like the idea of a swing trade for this one. I'll let you talk now, Nate. There you go.
Yeah, go for it.
I love it. I'm looking at 56. When I'm looking at that weekly chart, 56 looks like the level it's gonna, if it does swing higher, is where it's gonna target, and it'll be really interesting to see how it acts right at that 55, 56 level. It probably has a tough time there, I think, but it looks like that might be a magnet to pull, shares back up off of this trend line. It doesn't, overall it looks like it could potentially continue to get beat up, but yeah, I like this bounce, potential bounce off of this lower end of the range. So I was not looking at it this way at all. Okay, when you mentioned Square initially, I was like, oh yeah, this is a short setup, like
Yeah,
100%. And but yeah, it's at an interesting spot for sure.
Yeah, and also because the stock has been trading at its all-time low, and the stock keeps dipping, and the earnings are coming up, and we know for a fact that even though it's not a profitable company, it's a legitimate company. It has products and services which are being used. It is not a no-name company, so something is off in the market. And we see the same thing happening with SoFi. We see the same thing happening with a couple other stocks. Since you do Palantir, Sean, you can pretty much examine this. If you look at the valuation, the stock price, it's very different from what actually is happening in the field. But yeah, Corey, you were saying something.
Oh yeah, I was just to say that move to 56 from now is 30%. So that's massive. It's
massive.
Yeah.
That is crazy to think about that. The range that it's trading in while dropping is massive. I mean, if it goes from 40 to 74, right? I mean, you're talking something like 75, 80% or something, and it could still be in a downtrend, which is insane. So yeah, definitely an interesting chart here with Square.
Yeah,
I do agree with Kay. I think earnings is a massive catalyst, I think, for this stock, at least to get back to 56. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. All right, let's move to this one. Is a new one. It's Nike, and the reason I like Nike, it's I should have done the same thing with the weekly. I should have put the weekly as well, but I'll give you the little bit of a rundown on this one. Currently, the price has crossed above the 50-day, which is actually a very, very bullish signal. But what is important, if you notice that couple days ago, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 10, 12 days ago, before the earnings that came out, the stock hit $88.66. Keep in mind, the stock is trading below 220, 50, and 200-day moving average, which for a stock of Nike's caliber, it's definitely has been oversold. We saw a little bit volume uptick in the last couple days as well. And what happened was, when they reported earnings, we saw this massive gap up that you can see in the chart here. And in the earnings, what happened was that even though the outlook seems to be not as great, they still did a pretty good job in the earnings report. Now, with Q4 generally being a holiday season, you should see retail strength. And the reason I say that is because we were hoping that the unemployment would be higher. Unemployment is not higher. It's not above 4%. It's less than 4%. There's still demand. And with Amazon recently doing their, I think, big Prime Day, which was, I think, 12th or 13th October, we saw massive numbers coming out from Amazon on that. More to come. Maybe next week we'll see that, how it turns out. But seeming the setup for this one also seems like that in the short term, or at least short to mid-term, it could be a nice trade that at least I'm looking at. I'm looking at about a 1 month out for Nike on the option side. So I would be targeting, I want to see Nike actually go above the 99.88. that would be the level that I want to be comfortable, that if it can form a support over there, that's when I would be interested in getting into Nike for a long term, or sorry, for a midterm trade.
Sean, you ever trade Nike?
No, I never trade Nike, to be honest with you, but I might be doing it now. I like the fact it's above the 50. It's the blue, that's the red one, isn't it? Yeah, 50 moving average. But I would like to see it kind of immediately test it. It looks like it's trying to do it already at this kind of 99 level. Then perhaps make a move up to kind of 102.50. That's just basically a little short day trade for me. So no options involved, no swing trading, just a small kind of $3-4 move, which is obviously, I don't know how much that is in percentage, probably not a huge amount. On a day trading scale with leverage, of course, it does rack up nicely. But you also have that kind of big red bar, which KAYE was talking about, kind of just at the end of September. Obviously,
that was earnings. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Awesome. So that would be kind of almost previous resistance, almost. So that's kind of that same level to kind of come down and bounce off of. So yeah, I've written this one down. I'm looking forward to having a look at see what it does this week.
Yeah, I looked at the weekly. You mentioned the weekly, K, and it's interesting. I would not have thought this, but Nike's below where it was pre-COVID. Like the highs it got to right before the big sell-off in March or February, whatever, of 2020. It was at 104, 105, right in that range. And so it's interesting that now back below that for the second time. It got back below there this time last year. And yeah, I mean, I like that it's bounced here where it has bounced, and it is a higher high or higher low from a year ago when it, sold off hard and got all the way down to, 80. What did it get down to here? It looks like low 80s, 82, 83. But yeah, I did not expect to see it all the way down here. It looks like if it does catch a bid, 107, 108 level is going to be the next tough resistance to get through. And the 50-week moving average is right around 112. So yeah, I mean, it looks like it's setting up to move higher and kind of attack those levels. So another good one, I think, here you brought to our attention.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Surprised that it was below the. Sorry, it's got my attention. They got back below those levels.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Nike is a stock that people actually hold in their long-term portfolio, and it's a dividend-paying company. So if you have already Nike and you want to trade more Nike, I think this is definitely a stock that you should be looking into.
It got down to 60 in the pandemic lows when everything sold off, and we all thought everything was going crazy and nobody wears shoes again. I guess down to 60 it got.
All right. So yeah. So as Nate and Sean, I also do a lot of writing on Substack. You can definitely sign up over there. I generally do my trade results are mostly, if I do a long form video, if you don't like the long form video, you can see the written version of it on Substack. I do that on a weekly basis. And then I also have my main YouTube channel, which is at InvestK, where you can see videos about my trading journey, my investing journey, tips on how to become a better investor, so those stuff. And then of course you can follow me on InvestK, just like the other two gentlemen on this channel.
Good stuff all the way around. You can find us on X, you can find us on YouTube, you can find us on Substack. Always putting out good trading content, like nonstop. That's what we do. We enjoy it. I mean, it's thorough. I know I do. You guys enjoy it as well. And heading into this week, we got earnings coming, and in big ways. So I think that's going to be the theme for the next month or so, right? Is just getting through this earnings season. And I'm excited for it. I think it's going to give us a lot of opportunities. It might be not the opportunities we want. It might be, the other side of things, but there'll be opportunities. And so I'm looking forward to it. Tesla is the big one this week, and the semiconductor names. That's where my attention is going to certainly be. Sean, what about you? How are you feeling heading into earnings?
Yeah, so earnings season is breakout season, isn't it, really? You get lots of moves up and down, so it's kind of testing those levels. But I really want to touch on a bit of confluence. Obviously, a lot of stocks are kind of coming down to multiple points of contact with supports, with trend lines and moving averages. So if you can combine those and look for those kind of confluence points, as I like to talk to, I actually got the word from Nate, but yeah, look for those confluence points and really kind of have those trades cemented and almost safe in a way. Obviously, they're not safe, of course, but low risk, should we say?
Probabilities. We're all about probabilities. How about you, Kay? How you feeling heading into next week?
Well, the stock that I'm looking forward to most is Tesla. And the reason is because I have an open trade with Tesla. So I will see
All right.
if Tesla can have an upside breakout, I can roll the option and I can, generate more premium on it. So I'm like just waiting for it. And if it has a downside breakout, then guess what? I'll just close my open covered call and still make money out of it. So that's definitely one I'm looking at. As you said that as you get into the earnings season, if you are not comfortable in taking trades in earnings season, sit out. No need to take trades. I love taking trades on earnings season, but keep in mind it's a gamble. It's a binary event. It's one or the other. And all these charts and events, they can completely throw you off if the earning report is bad or future guidance is bad or vice versa. So,
or some other curveball.
Exactly. Exactly.
I like it because I'm a little bit different than you, Kay. I don't trade the event itself. I like trading leading up to the event and then after the event. And there's a lot of great opportunities, all three, right? Leading up to it, the event itself, and then afterwards. And if you put a lot of research into a company and you feel confident in the trading, the earnings report, then it can be quite the trade for sure. But like you said, it's binary, so you got to be prepared for either direction. And we're going to get a lot of these events, the earnings reporting events and binary events coming up. So it doesn't mean that we're not also going to get Jay Powell's going to continue to talk. And we're going to get information on rates, inflation, all the good stuff. So, all right, guys, looking forward to more action this week. You'll catch me on the open. So maybe we'll trade some opening trades here this week.
Awesome.
As well.
And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe.
There it is. That's how you know we're about to wrap up. Hit below, subscribe, share with your friends, and smash the like. And we'll catch you next time around. Thanks again, guys, for joining us. Have a great week.
Take care.